Did Prince really just say this?
When I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time, and say, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why.
Now, come on, man. This is just from heavy air traffic, you know. There has to be some sort of airport nearby. These streaks in the sky are caused by the water vapor in the airplane's engine, and the low temperature causes ice crystals. It's not like they could just turn it off or... Okay, I don't know what that was about, but this is testing the weight limits of the planes, right, for passengers. And no, those aren't hoses hooking up to anything. Yeah, they're just testing the planes, guys. Now that's how they do their little writing in the sky, you know what I'm saying? It's just a crazy conspiracy.
Point of view. In 711, an African army, from the empire of Umayyad Caliphate, led by the general, Tariq ibn Ziyad, arrived on the Iberian Peninsula, which is now modern-day Portugal, and Spain. Since their army were more superior, they began a conquest, which would shape Iberia differently than the rest of Europe, as the land adapted to a new religion, language and culture. Hispania, or Spain, quickly became a part of the Caliph of Damascus, which was the capital of the Moorish world. This new Moorish territory was known as Al-Andalus, and included all of the Iberian Peninsula, except for the extreme northwest. This conquest would last for a period of 800 years, and there was no better place to live at that time than Córdoba, which was the capital of Al-Andalus, quoted the historian.
Urban Legends That Were Proven to Be Real, Part 3. The Montauk Project. It was conducted in Montauk, Long Island in the early 80s, reportedly served as one of the Duffer Brothers' main inspirations for Stranger Things. The legend wasn't fully baked until the early 1990s when Peter B. Nichols, an electrical engineer, helped pen the Montauk Project. The book detailed time warps to Mars, genetic experiments, and 11 psychic child spies. Now the show makes sense. Fall for the next urban legend.
Black people are Native Americans. You know, we've had, you know, a lot of proof that, you know, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
I'm going to respond in a very peaceful way. There are a lot of my people and white people making videos saying that I'm incorrect on what I'm saying. Most of everybody believes that all nappy-headed people, black people, we all just came from Africa. That's the only place we were. There is an Egyptian temple in the Grand Canyon, which is in America, right? No one is discrediting the African heritage that some of us have. But we're not going to ignore that some of us walking around with my skin tone and who are labeled as African Americans are not descendants of natives. I'm brainwashed. I'm being disrespectful. I'm this, I'm that. We're all just descended from slaves. If you want to stay in that mindset, you can, but I'm digging. For the people who don't know who they are. You can go and research the $5 Indian yourself, since what I'm saying is a problem. I'm not telling anybody to believe anything I'm saying. I'm saying, do your research. Let me know what you find. No one is discrediting any of the straight-haired Native Americans. I clearly said it's where they could have came from. You don't read much, do you? Spreading misinformation for why? What is the obsession with rewriting history? Rewriting history? Are you serious? Because a lot of things that they told my people, which was saying that we was only slaves and we didn't come from nothing. They didn't teach us about the Egyptians. They didn't teach us about anything that gave us any status of intelligence. Am I really just misinformed? Almost everything I said in the video was false. People just making things up at this point. Only straight-haired Native Americans can be validated as indigenous, right? Okay. In the video, I clearly said, what if, on the situation between black people, white people, and straight-haired Native Americans. If you want to believe that every black person is from Africa, you can. Unfollow me if you have an issue with anything that I say. Because I do have a right to question things. Y'all stay dangerous.
Basil Davidson. The Moors managed to extend their empire from Portugal as far as Septimania, or present-day France, to over the Alpine passes, which connect Italy to Western Europe. When the Moors arrived, Europeans were living in a backward state, poverty-stricken cities, and a disease-infested population seemed to be the norm. The streets were unpaved, darkness enveloped the nights, and latrines were common for the people to defecate in. They bathed in buckets, from a community well, that was unsanitary to say the least. The majority of the population, 90% of them, were illiterate, and agriculture for crops were limited. So the Moors quickly went to work, bringing the Spanish territory to a modern-day city. They paved the streets, with raised sidewalks for pedestrians, and illuminated them with lamps at night. They created many private and public baths, toilets with tanks of water, and introduced the Spaniards to soap and essential oils.
July 2020, Montauk, New York. Take a closer look at the dead, decomposing creature of unknown origin.
Its body is bloated, the skin is all tan from probably floating around in the ocean for a couple days, and can you imagine the stench?
The carcass is highly reminiscent of another famous find nearby, the so-called Montauk Monster.
Online conspiracy theories began to circulate that this creature was actually from Plum Island, which is the center of a disease research facility maintained by the United States government.
A 1971 New York Times article described the facility as a devil's island for the deadliest animal disease germs known to man, and a debunked conspiracy theory claimed it was the source of Lyme disease. Adding to the mystery, the rotten corpse disappeared before it could be analyzed.
Well, of course people are going to connect the dots. This thing has to be from that thing, because I don't know what this is, and I don't know what that is, therefore they're probably related.
Energy fields that enable people like Ingo Swann to leave their body and travel through space are thought to be responsible for causing objects to move. This rare talent for moving objects by force of will alone has been termed psychokinesis, or PK. Ninel Kulagina is a Russian housewife who has this ability. These films of her demonstrating PK were made in a Russian hotel room and smuggled out of the country by American researchers. She gets the object moving with gestures of her hands or by fixating the object with nothing more than her eyes. Kulagina has been studied intensively for more than 10 years by Professor Sergeyev of Leningrad University, who has reported on her work. These films and demonstrations are subjects of unending controversy. Is she a sensitive or a charlatan?
At its heights, Córdoba had over 900 public baths alone. Education was universal in Moorish Spain, available to all. The Moors created 17 universities, located in Algeria, Córdoba, Granada, June, Malaga, Seville, and Toledo. The Moors introduced 70 public libraries, with the biggest one in the capital, Córdoba, which housed 600,000 manuscripts by itself. Scientific progress in astronomy, chemistry, physics, geography, and philosophy flourished in Moorish Spain. Many new crops were introduced in the agriculture fields, such as oranges, lemons, peach, apricot, fig, sugar cane, dates, ginger, pomegranate, saffron, cotton, silk, and rice, still remain some of Spain's main products today.
This real-life story is what the hit TV series Stranger Things was based on. Did you know that Stranger Things was originally supposed to be called Montauk? Or that real experiments were conducted at Camp Hero or Montauk Air Force Station in Montauk, New York? Stories about the Montauk Project have circulated since the 80s, after residents started reporting strange dreams and headaches after a giant radar array was set up at the facility. According to a whistleblower, Preston Nichols, the facility was set up to explore psychological warfare techniques, which included teleportation, mind control, and time travel. However, it was only after the success of the 1943 Philadelphia experiment, Preston claimed that a real doorway to another dimension was opened up, and something else, or someone else, came through. This eventually caused the place to be shut down. That is why it is said that.
According to those present at these demonstrations, it sometimes takes Mrs. Kulagina 2 to 4 hours to rev up her supernormal powers. Her pulse races to 250 beats a minute. She loses up to 3 pounds after a demonstration of psychokinesis. Edward Naumov is a Soviet researcher sitting to the left of Ninel Kulagina. He reports she was actually much sicker than she looks in the film. The strain on her heart was so great, we had to stop the camera several times. It took us over 7 hours to make the film, and afterwards she temporarily could not speak or see. For days after doing the tests, her arms and legs hurt. She felt dizzy and could not sleep. She described a sensation that usually heralds success, a sensation like that of a hot stream of energy traveling from the base of her spine up to the back of her neck and remaining there as if waiting for her to direct it. She adds ruefully that this hot current often leaves her with a bad headache.
The Moors civilized Europe in its entirety. After taking over the Iberian Peninsula, Al-Andalus, which is Spain, and Portugal, flourished under Moorish rule. The Umayyad Caliphate Empire expands all the way to Malta and Sicily. The Moors constructed huge cathedrals in honor of their Islamic religion, and sumptuous palaces for their kingdoms, while the monarchs of Germany, France, and England dwelt in big barns, with no windows and no chimneys, and with only a hole in the roof for the exit of smoke. The Great Mosque of Córdoba, now known as La Mezquita, is still one of the architectural wonders of the world, in spite of later Spanish disfigurements. Its low scarlet and gold roof, supported by 1,000 columns of marble, jasper, and porphyry, was lit by thousands of brass and silver lamps, which burned perfumed oil. One such Moorish palace, Alhambra, literally means the Red One, in Granada, is one of Spain's architectural masterpieces.
Got an afro. This is an afro right here, or somewhat of an afro. It's not big, no. But they want us to wear skin head, what they call it, high and tight. High and tight. It's not my culture. Am I right around? They come over here, they get, all right, a Vietnamese girl. She called me a nigger. A nigger, a Vietnamese girl. I know it's not part of their language. Can't nobody tell me that's part of their language. But I'm gonna go over here. The beast, you know that. See, we go over here, we fight. Okay, we fight to defend the water we drink, the land we grow our food on, and our way of culture. We also fight to protect Rockefeller's foundations. We fight to protect J.P. Kennedy's foundation. All these different kind of foundations that the black man can't partake of, you understand? And then we go back, we're continuously harassed. It's not necessary. This ain't what we heard, this is what we know. See, we've seen it from the bird's eye point of view. We are the people here now, see. We see it now. This ain't what we heard, you know.
The Moors introduced earliest versions of several instruments, including the lute, or elude, the guitar, or kithara, and the lyre. They changed the style of eating by breaking meals into separate courses, beginning with soup and ending with desserts. The Moors took on many European wives, and within 2 generations, completely altered the Spanish gene pool forever. Besides introducing the Spaniards to soap, the Moors also introduced them to toothpaste, fine linen, fashion, art, language, irrigation, food preservation, and hospitals. Paper was new to Spain as well. Along with this, over 4,000 Arabic word and derived phrases were absorbed into the Spanish language. Spanish use of the words like algebra, alcohol, chemistry, nadir, alkaline, cipher, checkmate, influenza, typhoon, orange, and cable can be traced back to the Moors.
That have never happened in the history of the universe are happening right now.
So what do you see this change as?
Well, they're extremely positive. We finally are getting our act together, and they're allowing things to move. The entire Earth is moving into another dimension. Another vibrations and frequencies of the whole Earth are changing to what's called the New Earth. And this is in the Bible, too, in the book of Revelations, when they talk about the new heaven and the new earth. It's just that it's happening right now. But in order to move, our vibrations and frequencies of our own bodies have to change to match that of the earth as it moves. See, the earth is a living being, too, and it's moving into its next incarnation. It doesn't care if we go with it. It'd be just as happy if we didn't go with it. We're like fleas on a dog.
Many of us think the term Dark Ages refers to a grim time in history, where there were constant war, marked by economic, intellectual and cultural decline. Like always, history is written by the victors, and they often narrates it from a biased point of view.